So what are the positives and potential overreaches of engaging with cultural backgrounds when studying the Bible?
There are so many. And I've done it well and not well at times. Um, the positives are that the biblical text, the cultural backgrounds of the biblical text present us with the first horizon. And so if we want to understand what something meant and all of its implications that we can recover, then we have a responsibility. So when we're reading Jonah, even if you are somebody who dates Jonah late, the literary context is the Assyrian, an Assyrian contact and interest in Nineveh. So it's worthwhile to engage in studying as much as you can about Nineveh, the city, and the commentaries do a pretty good job of pulling readers into that. But I encourage students when they're reading any text, whether it's a historical text or something classically identified as wisdom, to ask questions of what kind of iconography is present here that I may be just reading past. What comparative literary concerns would have been closer to the mind, or maybe they wouldn't think of it as comparative literature, but if you're reading Ecclesiastes, for example, scholars will frequently point to like the Epic of Gilgamesh, and there are a number of potential Egyptian intertextual connections. So you going into the world of Kohelet, what's on his radar, and scholars who engage with backgrounds, I think, have an opportunity to get closer to what the author is intending as he or she is writing. Pitfalls, so many. Going all the way back to like Parallelomania with Samuel Sandmel many decades ago.
Yeah. And
the tendency that we have to just see something, like I see something here, and that being an adequate basis upon which to just sort of draw together a conclusion. Sometimes the evidence is too thin. And, Shimar Yahu Talman and Meir Malul and a number of the old scholars who engaged in study of the comparative method set some guardrails, chronological, some language-related guardrails, geographical guardrails, and we can follow those to an extent. We do our best to do that so that we're not saying that something from the early Iron Age is the same as something from the Persian period. However, texts survive, right? There are certain Egyptian texts that are copied over and over and over through centuries. It's evident that knowledge of Mesopotamian texts makes it late into Israel's history. So we can't let certain geographic boundaries or distances and chronological distances be an absolute barrier to saying that the biblical author knew something about this text. But we have to be so careful. I've seen it, like I said, I've seen it done well and done poorly. We probably all have, where we want to read some kind of a special meaning behind a particular action of a biblical character. And so we will scrounge through Mesopotamian divinatory practices to say, this is what this biblical character was actually doing. And it's an exciting sort of sensational thesis to start with, but then even when there's no evidence to support it, sometimes that might still get published or presented. And we have to be just careful not to hope something into existence.